Alright, zoos are a bad idea. Before I get into that, let me give you a scenario. Let's say you were put in a box to live the rest of your life in. A small box, and you were only fed 3 times a day. And to add on to this, it was the same food over and over again throughout those 3 times of the day without being able to interact with the same species that you are. And this scenario is actually perfect because currently in COVID, we went through something like this. The quarantine, we were stuck inside our house, not being able to escape only when we needed to get food, which animals in zoos don't even have that luxury of being able to go out whenever they feel like it. And with that, and I can promise you, I assure you, that a lot of you, after a month, were like, oh, I just want to go out, I want to leave. You just wanted to get back to your regular lives, normal lives. And with those feelings that you felt during that time, take this into consideration and imagine that this is how animals feel in zoos every day, knowing that they are going to be kept in there for the rest of their life, locked up in the zoo. Alright, so before I actually get into why zoos are a bad idea, let me begin with their history. Modern zoos were first created originally by rich people to display their money and to show off their power. And this didn't actually become popular until the 1800s when people, which due to the Renaissance, people became interested in like learning about animals. I forgot the word. I think it's like, I actually forgot the word, but they became invested in it. And in the 1800s, people actually learned that they could make profit from like seeing animals because the human is always attracted to like things they don't know. So like a bear, anything that like could hurt them. And yeah, since then they have been a thing since people learned they could profit from animals. And zoos affect animals in many ways and make them more prone to dying easier. And some people like to say that no, that's not true, that if animals are in a zoo, they're safer than they were in the wild, which could be true. But let me tell you why it's not. When you take an animal from the wild and put it in the zoo, you're taking it from its natural habitat to an unknown location, basically feeding them, conditioning them. That way they don't like feed for themselves. And some animals are actually born in zoos and then get released later on in their life, which results in them dying easier because they had been given everything their whole life. The food, they didn't have to hunt for none of it. So when they're placed into the wilderness, they either don't know what to do or other animals, maybe from their own pack, kill them off. And now let me give you a situation to add on to this example. Let's say your family conditioned you to think a certain way and you weren't allowed to leave the house like for years and years. And you had this mentality, and one random day, they're just like, I go out into the world and learn, discover things. Do you think your morals and the things that you learned while locked up inside the house you couldn't leave, you think it would hold up in the real world? No, it wouldn't. And let me tell you why. Because the world is scarier and bigger once you actually go outside and learn about it. And that's what some zoos do with animals. After having them for many years, they release them, which ultimately results in their death. And if they do end up surviving, it's a really low probability that they do. And the reason for animals dying in zoos faster is because captive animals are handed everything without having to hunt for their food. Well, if they were in the wild, then they would hunt. They would learn about survival of the fittest, things that they don't have the luxury in zoos. What I'm trying to basically say is that animals in zoos have everything given to them, while animals in wild work for everything they have. It's basically like a house cat and a lion mentality. The house cat being the captive animals, and the lion being the lion in the wilderness, of course. And for this reason, I believe that animals shouldn't be like these creatures that are held captive, as by doing so, people are actually gaining a profit and could result in their death much quicker than in a natural setting. Because let me give you an example. A polar bear is born to be in the Arctic, but somehow they're in zoos where it's clear like during the summer it's hot. They're clearly not comfortable. Like if you ever go to a zoo during the summer, you can see a polar bear. It's not comfortable. And basically, to end it all, I'm not saying there's some positives to zoos, don't get me wrong. Like, humans discover more about animals, they learn more about things, to help them in the future. But I'm not saying to abolish them, I'm just saying to try to help make zoos more like natural habitats, not this boxed up place where they feel like useless. And it's not even that they're on their own. They have like four other animals there with them, so it's not like they have the whole cage to themselves. And yeah, basically at the end of the day, I'm trying to say zoos need to improve to make animals more acquainted and think more for animals instead of for people.